Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 510. I couldn't think of an interesting number to associate that with and come up with all sorts of research based on the number 510 to do with music technology. But I'll just say the word. This is the music technology podcast. We have all things to do with synthesizers, software, music production, DAWs, controllers, all of that kind of stuff, and that's what we're going to be talking about for roughly the next hour or so. I want to say thank you very much to Isotope, who have provided a competition prize this week. You can win a copy of their excellent Ozone 8 mastering software. Details for that roughly halfway through the show, something like that. So do stay tuned, and if it's your first time and you like what you see, every Wednesday, 4 p.m. UK time is when we stream live, although not next week because I'm away, but there will be a place. We've got a not live video to go out next Wednesday at about the same time. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining us. Say hello to our YouTube chatties. Nice to see you there. And also, you could, if you're watching on YouTube Live, you can either choose to be in the YouTube chat room, or you can join our IRC channel, which the details are also on the screen there. So you take your choice, and I've now got the ability to get you both in there. So hello to everybody. And let's go and join our guests. We'll start with Mr. No, that's the wrong button. With Mr. Gaz Williams from Bristol, bass player, music producer, music technologist, and yes, and guinea pig, because we had a little bit of a test earlier with him dialing in with an iPhone, but we won't talk about that right now. How are you, Gaz?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, I've been having a very music techie week, which is lots of MIDI, lots and lots of MIDI guitar and MIDI bass week, which is always a lot of fun. Yeah, it still feels really interesting to me to play synths with guitars. You know, I'm sure many of you know I've been doing this for quite a while now, but it's still trying to find this thing of that expressivity that you want, that you play in your normal, in the guitar or the bass, to transfer that successfully across to MIDI. That's what I'm still but I've been making some quite good inroads this week. That's been really on my plate, but with a lot of Electron Analog 4 and the Dreadbox Abyss. Those are the main ones I've been using it with. That's been my exciting.
Excellent. Well, it's interesting. Perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit later, but about what we might have learnt this week a little bit later. Well, not that much later, in fact, but we'll also come to my second guest, who is Mr. Ben Wilson, DivKid, who runs the modular channel, synthesis channel, really, on YouTube. DivKid Video, if you want to check him out, or on Twitter, DivKid. Saw you a couple of weeks ago at Synthfest, and nice to see you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on. If I can, I'd like to just quickly ask Gaz about the MIDI bass ventures. Are you finding any latency in the system? Because I've played around with people with some of the cheaper MIDI pickups, and also with things like Ewees, the Akai MIDI wind instrument. And the wind player said it's not live enough, even at kind of fractions of milliseconds of latency. He says it's just not quite. Whatever I can patch up just doesn't seem to give him the feel. Whereas the guitarist on the cheap MIDI pickup kind of felt like he was there nearly. Is it that, or is it a sonic kind of, you're not getting the tonal expression that you want?
It's physics, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, with the guitar that I'm using a GK pickup here.
Yeah.
That uses pitch to MIDI. So I'm using the GR55 Roland system with that. And it's okay. The physics, as Nick says, this is, with pitch to MIDI there's always going to be inherently a small amount of latency, but I'm finding it to be really fast. Actually, that one seems to work really well. The bass, on the other hand, though, I've got a bass system with a GR pickup on there, but that's just too much latency to play. So the bass that I use is an Industrial Radio Pro 4 MIDI bass, and that's got the sensors in the frets, so that reduces the latency massively. And I use this thing as well. This is part of it, which is called the radio pick. This goes to a little it's like a plectrum that's got a metal tip on there. It goes to a little wrist thing over there somewhere, that is got a little transmitter on, and then when the tip of that connects with the strings, it's like instant. It's the fastest. That's the fastest MIDI
so it's electrical,
experience.
right? Because obviously you won't. I mean, because
No
a bass
pitch.
wave takes however long for a cycle to
Exactly.
come through, you're going to get that delay. I mean, so that bypasses that.
Yeah, but back to the original. Well, to what Ben was asking though. I mean, there is this thing that the MIDI, what MIDI doesn't, or rather, what note on, note off doesn't translate is string energy. So string energy is another thing altogether. And with a MIDI-based system, there is like a kind of computer interface with it, or rather you interface with the computer. You run 4 separate, it's quite fiddly to say, but you set 4 outputs, one for each string, out of this little interface box into the audio interface, and then it runs through a like a reactor blocks thing called imprint. And what that does is that takes the string energy and then it combines it with all the MIDI information coming from the string sensors and the so it's a bit of a, you have to patch quite a lot of things together to get it working. But that's I think is the best MIDI system on the planet, really, because it's got the very low latency. I mean, there is inherently some latency in any MIDI system, but it feels very, very fast. And coupled with this thing called imprint, which is taking the string energy, that all combines together to give, I think that's the best MIDI experience, really. But it's a lot of stuff.
Work.
It's a lot of work. So I've used the MIDI-based system live quite a few times. I've done it with Charlotte Church and the Pop Dungeon, and it's a lot of extra hassle. And like when you're playing festivals and you've got very short time to rig stuff up, I'm finding that to be like a deal breaker with the MIDI bass. It just takes too much extra, you
can't just rock up, plug in and do a gig. You have to tech it a bit, right?
Yeah. But it's an ongoing thing. I'm enjoying it. It's a really interesting experience. And what I'm going to try is with an Expressive E touche, I'm going to try and make a little wooden surround for it so I can use it with my foot. So I don't put any weight onto the touche, but just use the ball of my foot then. And I'm really, really interested to try that. I think that's going to hopefully be the thing that I'm looking for, which is to be able to meaningfully adjust synthesizer parameters. I've tried it with expression pedals, but they don't feel sensitive enough. But the Touche, as anyone who's tried it, is the most sensitive MIDI controller I've ever experienced, really. So I'm going to try it with a foot and see. I mean, it's not designed for that. So as I say, I'm going to try and build a little surround for it, so I don't actually ever put too much pressure on it. But that's my plan.
Have you tried the Touche, Ben? Because it's definitely something that works really well with modulars.
Yeah, I mean, the guitar side of it, the reason I asked, the most kind of success as a player I've had is just going down the kind of extreme fuzz route where you square off the signals so much that you then use filtering and effects to then create a sound. But that gives you such just a big raw block of fuzzy square sound that's not expressive in any way. But doing that to get a kind of oscillator style tone and then add in the touche over filtering and maybe VCAs for level. I'm more kind of interested in that angle, really. Because obviously doing it with audio is instant. You just brick the audio and it squares off and you've got a fuzzy tone, but you could then process and it be no latency, as it were.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
trying to play with my big toe, maybe not ideal, but yeah, I'm interested to see how you get on with that, Gaz.
We'll check it out. So I wanted to start off with a topic which is kind of linked abstractly to what we've been talking about. This is just something I posted the other day because because I was trying to set up. I was actually demoing something that Ben's been working on with us, and I came up with this concept.
Welcome to a little Sonic Lab special.
To basically be able to play third-party VSTs via the drum interface.
And the first thing I wanted to look at was the we've got this
fast forward it a bit because it's
rack that we're working.
So the idea was really, that bass on that is still freaks me out. That's just massive.
What I wanted to do was actually create forums, an instance here of
just basically putting
with no
battery in and then enabling you to to play via the pads on push the interface, because normally you put it as an instantiator on a track and it's just the normal note grid interface, which isn't a lot of fun. But I wasn't really trying to plug the video. I was just going, well, I learned something new this week that was really helpful in my sort of daily life, as it were. And I wondered how you guys, what was the last thing that you guys kind of perhaps learned in terms of music technology that is a tip that you now currently use? I'll start with you, Ben, if that's all right.
I've been thinking about this today, and I don't mean in any way I know everything, so I've not learned anything recently, but nothing immediately kind of springs to mind. There are things I've realised I don't know, such as some of the rack routing systems in Ableton that I should definitely get comfy with and knowing. Some of the kind of effects routing on a few digital desks, looking at bits of live sound. I have a few areas I've found I need to touch up on for various jobs, but nothing immediate really. Oh, there is one thing actually springs to mind, a very particular nerdy modular trick. If you're using an LFO for vibrato style effects and it's a kind of guitar bass-ish line, you can't pitch bend up and down on the guitar. You're always pushing the string, whether you push the string up or down, the pitch goes up. So using a rectifier to flip, so if you've got the positive and the negative voltage on the LFO, you want to flip the negative one up so it only ever goes from 0 volts up, and it gives you a more guitar-like vibrato. I know that kind of sounds silly, it's just a vibrato, but it does.
Or unipolar. Yeah, or just use unipolar.
Yeah. Just your bass pitch, and then you just add in a wave on top that will cycle, as opposed to one that will cycle around that 0 point. And it really does take your ear very different. Obviously, it has to be with a line that particularly sounds guitar-like or bass-like, but I've always kind of known it but never applied that one. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of unipolar. In fact, on the Rev 2 review, which I published beginning of last week, I think, or the end of last week, I forget when it was exactly, the square wave on the LFO, I think the square wave and the ramp are a unipolar, so you can easily add certainly pitch. So if you wanted to just do a fifth or an octave, you just dial it in rather than try and figure out what the center frequency is and what the bit between a bit above and below has to be. And I find that really tedious. So it's nice. So unipolar stuff is also another way of doing it. So yeah, top tip there. And I think, we're all learning all the time. I know, Gaz, I'm going to come to you next. I mean, you said you've had a tech week, so I'm guessing you may have learned something this week that you could pass on to our readers.
Well,
viewers, even.
So another thing I've been doing a lot of is playing around with the Irijule Instruments chord bot, which I'm preparing a video of that at the moment. So I've been using that quite a bit, and I'm using it with the Electron Analog 4, and the Analog 4, which is just having a reboot. That's just been launched, doesn't it? The Mark II, which I have to say I'm a bit pig sick about, because the Mark II is just so much nicer than the Mark I in so many ways. It's a really good upgrade, I think. That Analog 4 synthesizer engine is very complex. You can do a lot of very interesting things.
There's lots of audio rate mod in there as well, all sorts of interesting
stuff. Audio rate mod and sort of LFOs that can be set to oscillator pitch, locked to oscillator pitch, and sort of FM goodness. And then I was just playing around because I was playing chords. And in one of the oscillator pages on oscillator 2, there's there's some synchronization. There's the sync options, sort of sync oscillator 1 to oscillator 2. But there's also an option there called MET, which I think is short. Is it short for metal? I'm not sure. But it was one of these really strange little discoveries. But by setting the oscillator to MET, I mean, maybe someone in the chat room can help me out with that, what that is. It literally was a strange thing. When I trigger chords then, using the chord bot, all the different chords would all start at different times. So it would sort of like arpeggiate within the chord whilst the chord was still sustaining through. So it was like a combination of an arpeggiator and a chord playing at the same time. So you strike it, and then you just get all these undulating, as all the different notes within the chord sort of fire off at different times, and then setting an LFO to modulate the rate at which that happens, and you get these beautiful, as I say, the chord is sustained, but then all the notes come in and out of the chord, and it was really an accidental find, and I'm not entirely sure what was going on there, but. Yes, I don't know if that was very useful to know.
Well, it's very specific, but it's still very useful.
Yeah, but one thing I was going to say about racks on Ableton, though, is something that I'd done quite a while ago, but it blew my mind in the potential. The fact that you can embed racks within racks within racks, you can just keep on making these embedded things. Means that you can set up some really interesting stuff using scale and pitch control. So I did this performance once where I was playing a hand sonic HPD 15 Roland, sort of like a bongo thing, and the platter of notes that were available to me, I was using the scaler function within Ableton, nestled within a rack, and then mapping it to I had loads of control going on here, but an expression pedal, and what the expression pedal would do would sweep up through different intervals. So as I would play a conga pattern, I could, with my foot, as I move up, it would sweep to different intervals. So it would play first, third, fifth, seventh, and then as I move the pedal up, it would start third, fifth, seventh octave, but then fifth. Oh,
so just invert up and up and up and up.
So what would happen is, as you play like a kind of conga pattern, and I was playing with like notes. I did the whole thing just using a piano tech, just using piano notes, and then I could sweep up and it would move up. But then embedded into that then was another scaler which would lock all the notes into a particular scale. And I worked it out. So I set along the in the rack. What's it called now? When you go into the racks, you can sort of open up the MIDI control. And you can set a controller to sort of change across. I did a globe. I worked out different scales from all around the world and worked out like a kind of circumnavigation of the globe with ordering scales in a particular order. So I could play these patterns, and then with my left foot, I'm sweeping up and down, moving up and down through the arpeggio. So you get these beautiful, really, really amazing sort of flourishes of notes. And then with my right foot, I would advance it as the scale, and it would crossfade into a new scale and do like a kind of go around.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
Go around the world. But this is the thing, you see. That's what's brilliant with Ableton, with those embedded racks. You can really do very creative things. So I did a whole loop of the world. So it went from, I started with just like a major scale, like sort of like a British folk sort of thing, and then moving into more Eastern European scales, into Egyptian scales and so forth, and then into Chinese pentatonic, and then into like a blues scale for America, and then back again. Sort of, it was so it's constantly evolving. But yeah, that was something.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we probably need some sort of a demo session to understand exactly what the details of that were, but I think I get the drift of it. I did ask the question. It's my own fault.
Yes. Sorry. It's a bit complicated.
No, brilliant. Brilliant stuff.
But yeah.
Okay, let's get on to. Actually, let's just have a little bit of interlude, because I think Chicky may well attempt to come on, and he might come on during the ad, which will solve a few problems. So let's go. Obviously, this is news of Isotope's Ozone 8, which is now the feature of our competition. You get Master Assistant, which really does help with frequency masking, and you can choose your destination for mastering type. You can learn the program material. It can make suggestions based on a kind of mastering chain, and you can choose to use that or not, or use it as a starting point. Really clever stuff. And lots and lots of other track referencing is another thing. You can have up to, I think, 10 tracks or a folder where you can reference them between two tracks and check the frequencies. The tonal balance control, which gives you an idea of, within the type of music you're listening to, what are the kind of acceptable tonal balances. Really useful stuff. We talked about this last week on the show. So if you want to check out Ozone 8, it's well worth checking out. If you go to isotope.com, Ozone 8, or just Ozone will probably get you there. You get a 10-day free demo, and it'll help you with your mastering. You can use it on individual tracks, use it on the master. Very, very useful indeed. So I want to say thank you very much to Isotope for sponsoring the show. And we did ask for a competition last week, and we've got a winner, a chap called Jeffrey Derry on Twitter. His handle is @Jeff_. That's JEFFDERY_DERY. And he tweeted, "This looks like the answer to all of my life's problems," which, wouldn't it be nice if you could buy a plugin which did exactly that? But I suspect it might solve some of them. Anyway, you're the winner. So if you get in touch, Jeff, you'll be able to claim your prize. That is Jeff Derry @JEFF_DERY. You won Ozone 8 this week. And we've also got another competition to go this week. This week we're looking for the hashtag. Let me make that full screen. That's not big enough. The hashtag #FixMyMix as one word, and the hashtag Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope. That's one word, hashtag #FixMyMix, and the hashtag Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope. And that'll get you entered into the competition. We won't be able to pick up the entry until the week after next, because there's no live show next week, just to remind you. So please do enter away, and we'll have a pick next week the week after for the winner. I did say that already, didn't I? Anyway, let's get on to this news of the Koma Electronics
Last year, we
Field
launched
Kit Effects.
this device on Kickstarter, the Koma Electronic Field Kit. And we're very happy to announce that we have a second baby. This is the Field Kit FX. Just like the original Field Kit, the Field Kit FX is a box of wonders for the experimental-minded musician. It offers 5 high-quality CV-controlled effects, designed to work together with the Field Kit, with modular synthesizers, and any other type of electronic music equipment you can think about. The Field Kit Effects consists out of 7 building blocks. Down here you have the looper and the frequency shifter. Here is the digital delay, the spring reverb, the wonderful 4-channel VCA mixer on top. Down here, the Rolodex with a mini 4-channel sequencer and an envelope generator. And up here, the CV interface.
Right, I won't play the whole thing, but this is another episode, another piece from Koma Electronics. But before I get onto that, let's see if we can get Charles Chicky Reeves to work.
Hello.
Fresh from traffic. Look at that. Here he is. What a trooper. Straight out of the car, not looking at all flustered or pissed off in any way, though I can see the anger seething behind him. How long was that trip, and how far did you have to travel, Chicky?
I had to travel from Westfield Stratford Mall to Portland Place, which is very central Westminster, and then back over to Islington, which is where I live. So it was... Oh, God, that was terrible.
Well, I don't wish to dwell too much on it, but I'm congratulations for making it, and it looks like congratulations for getting your iPad to work as well, because
yes,
it seems to work, which is awesome. Charles Chicky Reeves, of course, producer, engineer, front of house guy, currently working on the OMD tour pre-production, composer, writer, all sorts of things. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for hopping
Gladly.
in at this. Well, we were just looking at the Koma electronics. I mean, what's amazing about this, you might think this, the Koma stuff. The last thing they did was the field kit, which used contact mics and motor controls and stuff, little kind of thing, and you think really specialist. But they raised €300,000 on that Kickstarter. I just think about that for a minute. For a company that size, 300K is a pretty life-changing thing, and they're doing it again with the field kit effects, which actually looks really useful, much more specialised. And they've got to, I think they've already got to 130, and they've still got 24 days to go. So they wanted to raise 20 grand, they've raised 130 grand. So pretty smart stuff. I don't know if anybody. I'll start with you, Ben, because you're kind of more the modular guy, if that's all right. Have you checked the field kit out? Did you buy, or have you had exposure with it? I mean, it's pretty substantial project, right?
Yeah, I jumped on back in it straight away. Yeah, I love it. It's an amazing kind of tool for just playing with sound, people with experience, people without, musicians, non-musicians. It's physical, you can see little motors bouncing around and playing with springs, and it's great for kind of workshop stuff. And I've had a lot of fun with it, actually. It takes to plugging modular things in or MIDI to CV very well. So if you live like they did at Super Booth a year ago, I think it was the first one, where they had the glass bottle that was swinging. And, that was Bastel, actually, wasn't it? But you could kind of do it with a Koma kit where the bottle is just being hit by a motor, and he said, that's our cowbell. And then they had the guitar laid flat, and something else was plucking the string, and doing all that live over CV was great. Rhythmic, in time, very fast. This looks, well, much wider appeal. I think a lot wider appeal. I did think when I saw the amount, when I went to back this as well, pretty much as soon as I saw it, they must have had to go and get a different bank account. What happens when you go to the bank and say, yeah, the business, we're going to need to drop €300,000 in because it's coming from Kickstarter next week. It's crazy to think about. They're lovely people as well. Wouter, that's in the video, great character, always really fun, supportive of everyone. They're a lovely bunch of people. But this, I like that there's a frequency shifter in this, something you don't see very often. I managed with a frequency shifter to make the Volca Beats toms sound real at one point, like a real kind of flop. Because with a pitch shifter, obviously it just grabs everything as a block and shifts it. Whereas a frequency shifter, if it moves by 10 hertz, every harmonic moves by 10 hertz. So then it's all completely out from its original structure, and it becomes more kind of dissonant a lot of the time. But some real sweet spots that you can find with them. And it's an interesting thing. Spring reverb's always fun. Delay, sequencer, VCAs. I think it'd be a really fun little thing. And I think Gaz has mentioned a few tools in the studio that are leaning towards modular, but not that artists would really kind of gel with. I think this would be it. Kind of
this could be a starter, couldn't it? I just should point out, it looks like the spring reverb isn't built in. You get a spring tank, I suppose it's called, and you plug that in. It's not actually in the unit, so that's part of the kit. So that that you plug that somewhere, like in the old days when you'd have your spring under the desk in a tube, the Great British Spring or whatever it may be. But yeah, it looks a lot more usable and a lot more kind of funky, interesting effects. Charles, we'll come to you because you're fresh in.
Yes.
I don't remember whether you were on the show when we did the original field kit thing, but I mean the success of it is astonishing, and this again looks set to do that, and it just because I mean modulars, it's kind of big, but I didn't think it was this big. So I wonder if this is kind of encouraging people to just jump in who aren't necessarily using modular, just using it like an effects generator or something.
Yeah, well, I like the closest I've gotten to the whole modular side of things is the Matrix Brute, and it's not modular obviously, but because there's no cables. Well, I guess actually I have a Mother 32, so that's modular. That's close. Of sorts. Yeah, it's close. The modular stuff hasn't really interested me, but this does interest me. I like the idea of cool little effects boxes and being able to sort of make unusual sounds, especially for live, because I carry strange things with me live, and that's what I use for effects. I still use a Chaos Pad live all the time. But I love the idea of this. This I would get into more so than the other one, but this I would definitely get into.
Yeah, no, well worth checking out. I should also point out in the chat room, Flux 302 of Flux, you may know his YouTube channel, fluxwithit.com. He thinks we're going to see a big push towards CV-controlled desktop units without the need for a full-on Eurorack, which I think is possibly wise words indeed. I know, Gaz, what do you think? Is it? Yeah, it's the sort of, it's almost Volker, isn't it? It's like, ooh, if you could just get an easy power solution and all of that, it would just be perfect.
I was going to say the same thing. Flux kind of beat me to it there, but yeah, I absolutely think this is going to be something that's going to expand on, because I'm probably similar to quite a few people who've my sort of return to hardware and synthesizers has gone through small boxes and things like Volkers and whatnot. I mean, I had other stuff as well, but actually effects, like, there's only so many kind of subtractive synthesizers you can kind of deal with. Effects then are the really exciting element. Then, in fact, cool effects, you can put really boring sounds into cool effects and turn them into something really cool, really interesting. So, so this thing does look great. And I mean, I was very tempted to get the field kit when it first came out, and I can see on the Kickstarter there is a bundle of the original field kit and this field kit effect for, let me see, I've got it here,
$449.
How much? $449 for the two.
Field kit, or there's actually the if I got it here, you could get the field kit effects Eurorack plus effects pack. Oh no, that's Euro. Sorry, you're right. Field kit effects, but field kit for $449. That looks interesting.
So, it does look pretty cool, doesn't it? The two together, I think, would just be really ace. I mean, I was keen to get the field kit, but I think if it had come out like this, I'd have been much more interested. So I'm definitely on the kind of deciding whether to get this or not. I mean, I have, however, got a box which has a certain overlap. The Vermona, what's it called? Retroverb, which is a spring reverb coupled with essentially almost like a full analog synth, other than an oscillator. It's got LFOs.
There's a filter on there, isn't there? Right.
There's a filter. This thing here.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing piece of kit, very underrated, and I use it an awful lot. And that the spring is built into that. However, one of the great things when you've got a spring externally, though, is just hitting it and tapping it and actually physically manipulating it. So so that would be cool. So I am very interested, and I do definitely think this is going to be an area we're going to see some more interesting.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because what seems to be currently happening is, there was a big modular rise, and then people, it's not for me, it's too involved, I need to. So this almost feels like a second wave, doesn't it? A sort of here's a more accessible way of getting, and Koma seem to have got nailed that pretty well, and they've got, and we're seeing it with kind of desktop synths that are semi-modular MUD32, and there are other things coming along as well. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I think I wish them a lot of luck with it, because I mean, not that they need, they must have so much operating capital.
When it's called field kit, though, can you run it on batteries?
I don't see why not, but I don't think the batteries are actually in the unit. You'd have to figure out a way to do it. I don't know what sort of ampage it draws or anything, so I couldn't say for sure. But
yeah, the original is a little plug power supply, but I think at one point they did suggest several portable battery packs you can run these things on. Two last things to say on this really quickly, because obviously lots of topics. I really like that it's on their Kickstarter page, the field kit effects pack, that they curate a kind of extra bag in the package that they send with this you get a spring tank, some contact mics, all the kind of cables you might want, the RCA cables for the spring. They did that with a field kit as well, where they put all the kind of goodies that are going to make this as fun as possible in one pack. Probably for more money than if you want to go source them yourself. You can find contact mics cheap, but it's great. It works well. And they have a manual in there, 50 ways to use the field kit. Again, that's on the Kickstarter page a bit lower down. and now there's another 50 ways to use the field kit. It's amazing if you can dedicate an hour a week just to studying this thing. And right, I'm going to try and do this today. There's loads.
It's almost
really
like an electronics project, isn't it? Yeah, and interesting. Well, it kind of brings us back to this kind of notion of learning stuff on the fly, you know, or trying to kind of learn things. And in the old school, in the old sort of way, you used to get, you know, like practical electronics, or there used to be like little electronics kit that you would buy, like little bits do now, but there used to be, so you'd have blocks that you get together, and there'd be a project book, and you'd go through and you'd make the things that you want. You know, it's that sort of modular in the module sense of learning, modularized learning, which is also a good idea.
Have we covered the Dreadbox Hades then, the kit, because that's available?
No, we didn't actually. Sorry, I didn't get to that.
Because that's got a similar to what you're saying, you know, the idea that you can build your own synth from a kit. And I've been pondering about this, and I think it's actually brilliant that it's a way of getting a Dreadbox synth for not a lot of money.
Let's have a look.
And then it's an amazing synth.
$130. I mean, you need a case, but you can put it in a box.
Well, you can put it in the cardboard box that it comes in, can't you? That's
you could. Yeah.
I don't imagine that
does
sort of.
Oh.
Sorry, Ben.
Sorry,
guys. You just said it. Sorry, I jumped in. It builds back into its own packaging in the cardboard box.
Neat.
Which is one of the pictures, which is great.
And they've sold. I don't know if they've sold out, but they've sold it. They sold an awful lot. Somebody was mentioning in the chat room earlier. Sorry, I didn't remember your name, but I should have made a note. Very interesting stuff, and good fun as well. Right, let's. There was one other thing. There was another thing that. This was interesting as well. This is more of your software kind of thing. So this is a new Klevgr plugin. If you've ever seen their stuff before, they do some great things. They did a really good sort of vicious compressor, sort of one mic compressor type compressor. I forget what it was called, and this is a noise gate that's made up of like a matrix of micro noise gates, frequency dependent. You may or may not hear the results of this. Let's see. Sort of seems like magic to a degree. I mean, it's just a noise gate, but as you know, with noise gates, generally you get like there's some trade-off. You know, if you've got a long decay, you might have to set the or release. You might have to set the threshold further than you'd like, so that more stuff creeps through. You have to set the gain reduction so that it doesn't reduce all of it, so you don't lose the tail. Well, this looks really interesting. I'm going to come to you first, Charles. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's isotope and the things that does. You know, dialogue denoise and spec. But this is a very specific thing. I mean, do you find that you're just editing that kind of stuff out, or do you have a noise gate that you go to? You know, this looks like it could be a pretty cool little device, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get this. I don't have a noise gate that I go to specifically because they all kind of are basically the same. You know, the I can't remember, there was the C1 that was from Waves, and the basic one that's in Pro Tools, and the one that's in Ableton. You know, they're all kind of the same. But this is something quite unique because I think you have to have a section of the noise isolated that analyzes that noise. Yeah. So it works a lot like a denoiser, or you know, like or what was the one that Avid had? It was for years ago. They used to make
DINR. There was
that's it.
Yeah.
You can make everything sound really strange with it if you really wanted to. But yeah, actually, I have a lot of their other plugins. I have their I've got their I forgot all the names of them, but the one that does like the timed filter changes and I can't remember. I have their synth, which is really good. Their sort of pad synth that I think is really nice. I love the products they make. So I was on their mailing list. That's how I knew about this beforehand. But it's absolutely, this looks fantastic. I got to get something like this, or I'm going to get this for sure. Yeah. Whoops, can't hear you, Nick.
Sort of thing that's going to be very useful. Somebody can take a drink now. I didn't mute my mic. Unmute my mic. If you do play Sonic Talk Bingo, that's one of the trigger points for having to take a drink. So there we go. Yes. It does look, and I mean, just a very simple idea, a sort of frequency matrix of gates. I don't know if it's the same in other technology, but it looks pretty neat. I guess, I mean, you know, when you're doing live recordings and stuff, I mean, quite often you want all of that sort of residual ambience and crosstalk, but sometimes you don't. So this is something that, you know, looks like it would get you there. I don't know what the CPU load's like, though.
I don't know. No, but how do you say their name? Klevgr? I don't know how you say it, but they're really interesting. Klevgr. Like Klevgrand, that's it. Klevgrand. They make really cool plugins. I like a lot of their plugins. So the first one I got, I think, we did it on the show ages ago. The hot dog compressor, the Korv, which very, very simple compressor, but does sound really good. And I love some of their odd synths, the juicy, voice, you know, really unique. And so I think that this is a very interesting company who are kind of coming at things from an interesting angle. And I do want to try this. It makes a lot of sense, and I can completely, the amount of times it would have been brilliant in the past as well. Just I'm going to get this, I think, too.
I think we might get it as well, because it's very useful, because quite often I might, if we've got, like, you know, we're doing a review here, we've got 2 open mics and there's a big fan on one of the CPUs on the, you know, in the laptop, if there's a laptop in shot, you get quite a lot of noise, or if somebody's quiet and you have to compress them up to get them in, you know, it's really useful. Apparently Brusfri means noise-free in Swedish. And one of the things it says, blah, 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 several frequencies trimmed expanders to build intelligent noise suppressor, no phase altering, which leaves the desired sound untouched, no squishy artifacts, which I'm sure we've heard. I mean, you tend to hear the squishy artifacts. It's a bit like when you're working at very low bit depths, like if you're watching a very low grade stream, which is unfortunately, hopefully not this one, and the noise tails off. Skype, you hear it in Skype, don't you? When the noise grows off, you get this kind of and as it closes down, and it doesn't know quite what to do. Ben, something for you?
Absolutely. It's always, and I imagine everyone else will have experienced this more than me, and lots of people watching, the best take that seems to have the noise that's crept in. And you're like, right, let's do another. You solve the issue, and then you go back, you know, the day after the session, and you're like, the noisy one's just got that magic touch, and I'm going to have to work with it. I've always used expanders, then noise gates to try and then compression afterwards, but we're using the noise gate in the middle. If you can expand that level, chop the bottom off with a gate, and then compress what's left back up. I found that a bit more successful, really, but it's a lot of fiddling around. And like you said, with Skype and the bitrate thing, a lot of chatter and things if you try it on drums. And I think this and a combination of Isotope RX would pretty much do everything from what I've heard from that demo. It's definitely
noise be gone.
Yeah.
Can you solo the noise on it?
Can you solo the noise? I don't know if you can, Gaz, actually. I couldn't say for sure. Just quickly should mention I think it's, let's see, it's it comes in AU, VST and AAX versions, 50% off till the end of the month, I think, $29. And there's an iOS version as well, because there's an iOS plugin format, which could work in Ohm or something like that. $7.99, 47% off. So yeah, that looks like a pretty decent bit of, you know, it's one of those kind of utilities that they've obviously spotted and gone, oh, that's really cool. Actually, that was something I meant to mention as well. You see Russ Hughes over at Pro Tools Expert, they came up with a plugin which is just basically uploading pictures into a plugin on a track, which shows if you've got hardware inserted in the signal chain, it just you take a picture, email it yourself, drop it into the plugin, and it just basically remembers all the settings within the session. Really good idea. I'll see if I can remember what that's called, because that. Let me say.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I can't remember what it's called now. That's the one thing I meant to have in the topic list, which I forgot. Pro Tools Expert. I'll tell you what. While I'll put a little plug for our Max for Live synth, which is currently on 10% off. This is our Max for Live plugin, which runs with Ableton Max for Live, 2 multimode oscillators, 3 multimode filters, 5 ADSRs, 5 LFOs, and a 12-slot modulation matrix. Well worth checking out. Let me see if I can find this thing. Damn, I can't find it. Anyone know? Anyone in the chat room know? Sorry, I curtailed my ad. Anyone in the chat know what that is? I'm completely, because I didn't notice. But it's if you, I don't know where you get it exactly. I saw it on Facebook and I can't find it on their site. So I'm just trying to sort of see where
I'm
it
looking
is.
on Facebook now.
Yeah, I can't see what the actual plugin is called or where to get it. I wonder if it's on the. Oh, please. God damn it. That's annoying.
I'll find it.
Yeah. God, this is what's called dead air, I think. But yeah, I can't see it. Ah, here we go. Got it.
Found it.
Ingenious new plugin. This is the one that they made, right? It's called, what's it called? It's called Snapshot. And basically, yeah, you just upload images into it, and then you put that, no CPU latency, just a bit of extra storage, and then you drag and drop the photographs in. I think it's Mac only at the moment, and it's free, which is just a really cool idea, because then the problem is you have to make notes, and you keep them with the session notes, whereas this, it's all just stored within the session. Genius idea. Genius idea.
Yeah.
So that's the Pro Tools Expert, and it's called Snapshot. If you check that out, Russ posted a video. He said that it was an idea he had in the pub with his mate. I think there are other things out there, but I'm not sure they're any longer supported. So this is sort of a new version, and a mate of his built it, and yeah, good for him. Great idea. Right, let's see, what else have we got? Klevgr, we've done Klevgr. Oh yeah, man, this is who knew? Yet another first ever synth. So this video here is about the Telharmonium, which I've heard mentioned, but I actually never really knew what it was.
Bankers and investors gathered for dinner at an exclusive private club to hear a business proposition for a revolutionary new invention.
This is
a
around
telephone
1900.
receiver fitted to a horn stood ready on the dining room table. From this horn, the sound of the future would flood the room, the pure, rounded tones of electrical music. A single pair of telephone wires transmitted Handel's Largo as it was being performed on the Telharmonium, 35 miles away.
I'm tempted to watch the whole
Before
thing of
leaving
this.
the table,
I won't do that, but basically they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in the first round of funding to make this instrument. The Telharmonium, you may have heard of, but I did not know that it was... Wait, here, I've got... Mark I version weighed 12 tons. Essentially what it was spinning steel flywheels on... it's like an early version of organ tone wheels. We're talking 1897 or something, I think it was. The Mark I version weighed 7 tons. The Mark II weighed 200 tons. As did the Mark III. And there are so many things about this that just make me kind of smile. One is, could you imagine anybody making something like this now? You know, not considering that was a limiting factor. It's got, you know, forget that it's 7 tons, 200 tons musical instrument that was made mechanically at the turn of the century. I think the idea was it could transmit music over telephone wires, which was actually very revolutionary. But it's such an amazing concept. There was an original article on Create Digital Music, which seems to have, let me see if I can reload that, which just goes back to the Make Noise. There's a Make Noise module, which it's by Tom Erb, I think it's DSP, which kind of uses the same principles to create. It's an additive synthesis, and the idea is it makes multiple sine waves which can synthesize effectively any sound. And that, you know, in principle, obviously in maybe 1900 with a 200-ton machine, that was probably a little more difficult than it is to do in a kind of tiny little Eurorack box now. But this guy, the guy who made it is just, it's astonishing. What was his name? His name was Thaddeus Cahill, about 30 circa 1896, and he patented it in 1897. And it's just, you know, that for me is the beauty that this thing exists is what really blows my mind. And I don't think the last one was scrapped in 1960s. You know, there isn't one existing, and I don't know if there are any recordings of it. It's just a tragedy.
Imagine trying to get that to a gig.
You'd have to get the gig to it, I think. That's what they used to do, didn't they?
I was like, whenever I'm thinking about tours and stuff, I'm sort of thinking, okay, so we needed 2 trucks for this. We needed this, but this would probably like 4 trucks at least. And the crew, I probably had a crew of about 70. And then that would be just my rig of the Telharmonium. That'd be amazing though. I mean, how cool is that? That is amazing. And the time I find is really amazing. Like, one of the things I thought about, like when I first came over here, you know, I used to think that, as you know, there's the old saying that in America they think 100 years ago was a long time, and here they think 100 miles is a long way. But yeah, I used to think, oh my God, that's just ancient history. But it's actually not that long ago, really. I mean, because there were so many experiments happening around that time period with early electronic music. I mean, I think it was in the 1870s is when they first started actually making electronic sounds. But God, the idea of those flywheels, like
yeah,
how big would the flywheels have to be?
I've got some pictures. I suspect this might be the Mark 1. Which is pretty big. It's a room. But wait for it. Here's the Mark II.
Oh. Ooh, wow.
I think that's the 200-ton version right there, which is just absolutely monstrous. There's lots of interesting articles about this. I can't make the whole thing. But Make Noise, obviously, their Telharmonic module has been out for some time. Ben, have you? I mean, presumably you've heard of this thing, but it just seems like such a tragedy that it's no longer, it's not like some of these instruments that are still one or two left in the world. This is just gone forever. I mean, I can't imagine the scrap value of 200 tons of steel must be must have been pretty valuable, but so sad.
There's one image you should pull up if you can while we're chatting on the CDM, Create Digital Music post, and there's a guy kind of with his arm out over these rotors that spin.
Oh yeah, hold on, I got it here. Here we go.
Crazy. That's the one.
Wow.
That's one of them.
That's what the series looks like on steel discs. He says it's based on a magnetic field, and that's what makes those discs create sine waves. Yeah, it's crazy. The Make Noise module is very good. Multiple outputs, so it can do all the additive harmonic series stuff with sines. It's got a shift register in there. It's really nice. It seems like a really geeky modular thing, but it's a bit like a sample and hold that's got 4 stages. So if we think of it like an arpeggio where you play C, E, G, and then C the octave up, if it's a 4-voice register. Play C, that passes to the second voice, E comes in, C and E pass to the next voice, the third voice comes in. And it's a really nice way of creating really musical overlapping. It's essentially a classical canon, just a musical phrase that delays through several voices. Beautifully musical as a module, very instantly. It's also got a Casio-style phase distortion output in there, and a kind of pitch track.
There's some great. I mean, I think it's like this thing's about $300, and the actual original Telharmonium must have cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, even back in the 1900s. And it's just you sent a couple of links, Ben. There's this one I like this one. This was by Matthew Shaw, which is just sounds of the Telharmonic module by Make Noise. And yeah, as you can hear, there's all this beautiful. I might leave that as a sort of as a background as we come to this. But Gaz, can you imagine? I mean, I pay to go and see this thing as an instrument, but I mean, it's just gone. It's like the Dodos. It's extinct forever. Nobody's ever going to make this again because it's totally impractical.
Maybe someone will make it. Maybe there are nutters out there who do things like that, and so yeah, come on, someone.
I suppose it has been. I suppose the thing is that this was kind of the precursor to the tone wheel organ, which obviously Hammond have done. But can you imagine? It's like that they make. You can buy, and I've always fancied one of these. If I had enough land, you can buy very small jet engines that are sort of this big rather than aircraft size, and maybe someone can make a replica of the Telharmonium but really tiny, so it sort of fits in a case on a table.
A Roland boutique version.
Boutique Telharmonium. Now you're talking, Gaz. That is a great idea. I think that would be. I mean, this does sound extremely clever. Have you got one of these, Ben?
No, it's a module that I don't have. Matthew's within reach. Driving over to his. It's great. This is that shift register mode, so every new note he's putting in is cascading around kind of 3 voices. It's very quickly musical. You can just send a pitch in from a keyboard or a quantized sequencer and get into that mode. It's really nice. It does all the kind of shepherd tone things really well too.
Yeah, the code was Tom Erb. Tom Erb, who did the Erb Verb, if those of you are perhaps familiar with that name, which is it's quite a classic. The Erb Verb is a classic. Is it a Make Noise module, or is it somebody else made the Erb Verb? Ben, you'll probably know that one.
No, that's Make Noise.
Right.
It's from SoundHack, and the SoundHack's still free. A great kind of offline audio processing module. Does some things a bit like Paul Stretch would do, kind of phase vocoding and morphing and convolution effects. Yeah, he did the Echophon delay, which is based on kind of music concrete and tape splicing, repitching delay. Then he redid the Phonogene as well, their sampler, and the Morphogene kind of textural granular sampler, and this. Yeah, he works with Make Noise for, well, I say regularly. There's modules coming out every now and then by those two.
It's very lovely, this, isn't it? It's got a real... I won't play it all because I think it's kind of gurning up the stream a little bit. But yeah, really nice. And I just did not know. I mean, I'd heard the name, but I did not know the background. It's well worth looking into. And that was the video I played at the top there was by a chap called... Let me see what he was called. He was called... Bayal, and it's just a little sort of documentary put together. It's well worth watching. And there's also this one, which is Mr. Doty's talking about it as well. When this is a Moog Foundation video, back when he had his classic Doty hair.
Yeah, and that was the thinking of Thaddeus K.
I won't play the whole thing, but yeah, really, just fantastic. And that seems to be the earliest. And just, again, you know, could you imagine? I think there's a parallel here because I was talking to an investor recently, or somebody in an investable company, shall we say, and they said that when you go to VC capital people and you're doing stuff to do with music and you hire a recording studio, you get them to have a glass of champagne, you get a couple of celebs in, you get a bit of musicality happening, money just falls out of their pockets apparently, and it's obviously a tried and tested routine. I mean, I've never tried this. This is obviously a popular story, but maybe that's the answer. You know, you just need to come up with some really harebrained musical kind of concept, get the VC people in, have a decent front man, and you could just pull in hundreds and thousands or millions of dollars. Maybe that's what we need, as long as you can pull it off. But it just seems such a shame that there's not one in existence. I wonder if there are any parts of it left, you know, where somebody's got like one of the rods, or, you know, it just seems so sad. Anyway, what shall we do? I haven't got much time left. What does anybody fancy? Does anyone fancy do the Buchla modular style from Softube, or perhaps the Music Theory Helper, which is again another very successful Kickstarter campaign? It sort of ties in. What does everybody feel? Raise your hand for Buchla. Okay, we'll do the other one.
Yeah.
So this is another, I know Gaz was talking about the chord bot. This is a similar kind of concept in terms of musical controller with scales and inversions, a bit more kind of buttony and not so arpeggiae, shall we say. Let me find the Kickstarter page.
Is all of music theory condensed into one MIDI controller. We wanted to create.
It's a very trippy video. You notice he's got these little reverb tails at the end of each phrase.
About music theory. Before we get into what the theory board is, there's a couple concepts we need to go over. When it comes to music theory, there's 12 notes that you need to know about. C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G flat, G, A flat, A, B flat, side, which loads every possible chord within the chosen scale. And the right side is the melody side, which loads the single notes within the chosen scale. We'll look at the melody side first. We currently have...
I don't know if you heard that first. It's a very hypnotic video, obviously a great Kickstarter video, and it's quite interesting because obviously there's a real hunger for this kind of stuff because the chord bot did really well on Kickstarter, and these guys have done really well on Kickstarter. They've still got 30 days to go, and they've already exceeded their $100,000 goal. This thing is $799. You know, it's not a cheap thing, but there's obviously a real hunger for people to be able to kind of disentangle or be able to play within scales without having to learn all of that stuff. Or maybe they think, you know, it appeals obviously to the notion of I can learn stuff, but I can also use that stuff before I've learnt it properly. I'm going to come to you first, Gaz, because I know you've got the chord bot, and it's a very similar kind of basic principle, isn't it? Oh, you've gone all soft focus. That's weird. Ooh. There he goes. He's come back in. Whoa!
It's the video.
Wow, that was weird. Maybe something crawled across the screen.
I don't know what do you think? Yeah, it does look very nice. I mean, yes, obviously I've got this, I've got the chord bot with me, that I've been playing around with over the last week. So it's interesting. I think they've got there's a bit of an overlap between these products. I haven't actually watched this one. So just speaking about the chord bot in relation to it, what's nice with the chord bot is it's quite a few really nice things with it, but one of the really nice things I think is that you've got like these memory pads, and you can store, so you've got all the chords laid out, and you can store chords into the memory pads, and then so as you're building up a song, you don't have to know what the kind of correct chord should be. There is a mode where it gives you chords within diatonic mode, so chords which all work well together. But if you're just using it in the standard mode, say you come up with a chord, say, I like the sound of that, and then
you can store
just
it, right?
Look.
Okay.
Yeah, and you just look for a chord. Look for a chord. Sorry, you just look for something.
Do you think that there's a real hunger for this kind of? Because obviously, both of those projects extremely well funded, and yet in many ways it's almost omnichord or a chord. You know what I mean? It's actually quite auto. It's one step removed from this notion of auto accompaniment, but it's not as uncool or perceived as uncool as that. It's really interesting.
Well, I think the point I'm just trying to get to though is that it's you can like have a chord and then just look for something that you like the sound of without necessarily knowing what the theory behind that chord is. So I think that is I think that's really great from a creative point of view, and I think that this other device will probably have similar workflows to it. But also I think it's interesting that we're getting more polyphonic synths on the market now as well. So perhaps chords and chord progressions are having a new kind of lifespan, a new interest. I mean, in machine software, there's a terrific chord mode. There's a couple of chord modes in it where playing a single pad triggers a chord. There's a chord mode which is based on whatever scale you're in, which is cool. But I think more interesting are these things called chord sets, which are essentially curated chords, for want of a better description. And you have like 8 different sets of minors and 8 majors. And those are really nice because they're chords which really work very nicely together. But so without having to know all that theory, it enables you to come up with some very interesting, maybe jazzy sounding progressions or really interesting ones. So I think that sort of stuff opens up like this beautiful area of music, this which is great. And really I think it's something really cool, because I think a lot of music kind of gets stuck in the same key because people don't have maybe the musical skills to to do some
I know, guilty
key
guilty.
modulation. So things which kind of open up this wonderful world of chord arrangements, I think is I think it's really, really cool. And this thing, the what's it called again,
the Theoryboard.
The Theoryboard, I mean, it does look really nice. Now I wonder if they're going to try and make it like a very versatile MIDI controller, as well as its kind of theory board, whether you can use it just
maybe so. Actually, I should point out just quickly before you carry on. I think the final price is going to be $799, but the Kickstarter is at $299, so it does make it much more attractive so maybe they're front loading that and kind of go, well, if we sell a load there, then maybe the final MSRP will come down. I don't know how they're tackling that, but it's an interesting idea. Chicky, I don't know. I like the idea of having, we talked a little bit about this last week, the idea of AI sort of assisting and saying, have you tried this? I suppose with something like this, you could press a button that was a chord that related to what you were doing, and it would go, oh, yeah, that's that thing I like. I didn't know that was the relation. I mean, it's definitely got an appeal, but do you think it might be one of those things that the idea sounds great, but the actuality you kind of is different?
No, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. my background is very heavily in theory, doing orchestrations and stuff like that. And still, I can see myself completely using this because it just gets me from, A to B a lot faster than sitting there and just, at the piano and just maybe, I can experiment with different chords, but I'm kind of like, I'm just not really sure. But if you can just like rattle through a whole bunch really fast, absolutely. I would absolutely get this thing. In fact, I was just looking it up on my phone so I can contribute to the Kickstarter fund.
There he goes. There he goes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like the idea.
These, yeah.
I think the thing with all of these things is, certainly from my point of view, I'm not a keyboard player. I mean, I play on the keyboards, but I wouldn't call myself trained. But I like the idea of being able to have a dial as well that could simplify or unison certain notes or take out the third or take out the fifth or whatever, so you can have all these different voices. I don't know whether it would do something like that. I know, Ben, I mean, you teach music. Is this sort of thing, with this sort of thing, but you, I mean, do you use these kind of aids, in other forms for your education side of things?
Yeah, I'm tempted to buy one just as I've started a college job this year, not just primary and secondary schools here in the UK. It'd be incredibly useful. The one I use a lot when it's anything production based is the fold function in the MIDI clips in Live. So if you start a clip and put every note of a given key in, you can fold down all the available notes so you'll always be in key. It's a really nice way to, either for us as musicians or someone new or students or young students that I'm teaching, just try push that note up and it will go up to the next available note in the scale, not the next note on the keyboard. So everything's kind of going to work harmonically. That and things like, I just picked this up, tiny little module from 2HP. Just a quantizer, but it gives you major, minor, all the pentatonics, Egyptian minor, whole tone scales, harmonic scales. I like setting up already quantized musical sequences and then just going, wonder what an Egyptian minor sounds like. And I might not like it, but it might inspire something else, or I may like it, and then it encourages a different kind of harmonic, kind of content strapped across the music. Yeah, I use quantizers and things a lot. And as Chicky said, even someone that's quite comfortable with theory, if it allows you to do it faster, and just have a button in front of you where you can go, oh, what's that one? No. You can just immediately think, no, that's not for me, move to the next note. You're not thinking, I wonder what adding a fourth voice to this is going to do, and you're not start figuring things out. Yeah, I like Charles, Chicky, I'm hovering over the back button on this one.
Wow. That's not what I expected to hear, to be honest. It's funny, though, because this sort of thing seems like it would be not a piece of cake, but really obvious to do as a MIDI plugin, just that goes into a, so you use a keyboard that you're familiar with and you split the keyboard, via input. One half is the melody and the other half is a load of chords. I suppose it's just not got the stuff written on it, so you don't know what they're called. So you could quite easily have some sort of visual display. So as you move up the keyboard, it's like, there's that note, there's that. Kind of like the way that auto accompaniment words, you play a shape or a derivative of a shape in the left hand, and it throws, an augmented or whatever it may be, depending on what the language is. I mean, it seems like this would be a no-brainer kind of software thing, but it seems that there's a real hunger for it in hardware, which is encouraging, I guess, even though it's essentially a bit of software with a bespoke controller stuck on it. I mean, as so many things are these days, I suppose. That's not entirely a fair judgment of that, but yeah. Yes, if you want to check that out, it's called the Theoryboard. It's on Kickstarter, and there's lots and lots of really kind of trippy videos with the guy's got a very soporific kind of voice. I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if there's some subliminal messages. And as I say, they kind of treat his voice in a sort of real Carl Sagan kind of way, with this sort of ambient background, and then it sort of drifts off into these large reverbs that tail in. And so you kind of like feel bliss towards it. So maybe that's one of the reasons as well. But yeah, again, another one. Anyway, that probably brings us close to the end, I think, or to the end. And I want to say thank you very much to you guys. Thank you, Charles, for stepping in and getting here in time and being around for that. Are you off out of the country after this? Is this your last show for a little while? I am.
It is. I head off to Ireland this weekend, and that's the beginning of the OMD tour until mid-December. So yeah, we start in Ireland, work our way around the UK, and then do all of Europe, and then we're off for a while. Then after Christmas, we Scandinavia and the US.
Wow,
that's what's planned. That's what's planned so far.
Nice. Well, I hope you have a lovely time. Have a lovely
Thanks,
time,
thanks.
and it all your pre-production has made it so that it will be perfect. I'm very happy.
I hope so. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask, did you get one of those? Did you get any joy with the Persona the Play? No, the iConnectivity Play Audio 12 as a backup system? Did you get a positive response to that from your tech guys?
Yeah. Well, actually, they do seem somewhat interested. The only thing is, on the Howard Jones side, we have one of the iConnect audio things, and I also have one of those here. It's a little tricky on reliability, just a little bit, and so I'm not sure if I'm ready to yet use one of those live. So instead, we're using RME stuff. So
right,
because RME it's kind of hard to beat. It's rock solid, So that's what we're using live right now.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining us. And also, Ben, DivKid Wilson, thank you for joining us too. What have you got coming up in your channel next? What's your next feature?
Maleko gate delay, I think, and some footage from Simfest that I've been a little bit slow at getting to. Looking at gate delays and allowing you to really quickly and easily place beats, as we're all probably used to in software. Pulling the clap back just before the snare so it flams, creating some groove and feel and swing. Really nice module, very quick. Just going to be that Maleko gate delay next.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ben. And also, Gaz, thank you for joining us too. You've got your album launch, haven't you? Is it next week or the week after?
It's November the 3rd.
Yes.
So that's Asteroid Deluxe, The Lawn. But yeah, so if anyone's around, please come down to that if anyone can make it, because we got, I mentioned before, we got all the brilliant live visuals for it. So we got the guy doing it, mixing all the visuals live, and it's a brilliant show. It's the one we did at Green Man Festival. We're basically doing that again, but to launch the album. So we've got it on vinyl now, which is great. So yeah, so we're going to start taking pre-sales as well. asteroiddeluxe.com.
Excellent. Nice. Glad you could get that plug in. And of course, what have we got going on? What have we got? We've got, last thing I posted was the Dave Smith Instruments Rev 2 review. I also got Gaz's Machina 3 review, if you haven't seen that already. Posted a little tip on Ableton Live. I've got the Analog Solutions Fuse box, which I won't get to before we go away. Just remember, there's no live show next week. And before we go, just a reminder, if you want to enter the Isotope competition, you need to be on Twitter. You tweet the hashtag FixMyMix and the hashtag Ozone8 to win a copy of Isotope's Ozone 8. And you address those to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So that's FixMyMix and Ozone 8 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That is it for this week. Thank you very much, everybody. As I say, no live show next week. Will be the Fairlight Series 3 special that I shot with Robbie Pericelli. So, hopefully we'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye now.